Hello and welcome to a very special issue of Headline Heroes. My name is Drew Mick, one of the co-hosts of this show, along with my two friends, Nathan Haynes and Tanner Ackerman. Now this issue is going to be a little different than the others. For one thing, it's only me here. Nate and Tanner have no idea I am doing this. Second, instead of the usual routine we have done here in the past episodes, this will instead be an in-depth look into the making of our very first episode, entitled Hard Hits, Harder Candy. But first, a little backstory. When Nate, Tanner, and I sat down to do this show, we knew what our premise was. Generate superheroes and supervillains based off of today's news headlines, and from there intertwine them, and thus create a super universe of our very own. Of course, as with any amateur podcast, we had no idea what to expect. Would we be able to talk to each other? Would we be funny enough to call ourselves a comedy podcast? Would our premise work? Or would the articles we had so meticulously picked out to randomly select prove to be too difficult to wrangle into the super beings we wanted? Let's find out. This is the road to Bushido Sobo.
We did it, guys.
All right, we're recording.
All right, should we just go?
I guess. I mean, hold on. My blender's here. funny joke. Good one, Nate. Let me just. I don't know how close is that. Like this close enough? Are you guys hearing me just fine?
I'm hearing you perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. I just don't want to be too far away, but I also don't want to be like.
Yeah, I don't want to be like right up here.
Microphone.
That really jumped up on the thingy. Okay.
I say you want to eat the mic, but all right. I guess Drew, you start whenever, I suppose.
Okay. Hello, and welcome to issue number 1 of Headline Heroes, a comedy podcast where we take today's headlines and create a superhero origin story. My name is Drew Mick, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, if you guys wanted to introduce yourself.
Oh, no, we never decided. All right.
As you can see, we were off to a rough start. We had plunged in and counted on the idea that it would all fall into place. We were oh so wrong. Additionally, there are some things I must note before continuing on. 1. I have no idea what Nate's blender joke means, but apparently it was hilarious at the time. 2. Keen-eared listeners may notice that Tanner sounds like he's dialing in from a Nokia phone in a cave during the dinosaur extinction. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but I stand by it. It sounds awful. Well, as I mentioned before, we are amateur podcasters, and we are very much learning as we go. Tanner had bought a very nice microphone for this show. He was very proud of it. However, at the beginning of the show, he stayed on the Audacity default of the built-in microphone. Podcasting, we've discovered, is like swimming in a wide ocean, in which you can lead a horse to, and then kill it with 2 birds and 1 stone. None of us knew to look for this small detail, and indeed we didn't discover it until episode 4 or 5. But, determined as ever, we trudged on, and eventually it was time to randomly select our very first article.
This is going really well. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and do it 1 through 12.
We'll fix it in post.
It is 3. So that is what article, Drew?
Caught on camera, car becomes tasty treat for bison.
Oh, Jesus. Where's it from?
It comes to us from NBC News, and this actually happened last year, December. That's right, dear listeners. You stumbled upon our dirty secret. The article that started it all The article that led to the timeless classic Gram Gram Sam Sam and ultimately led to our very first superhero Bushido Sobo was not our first article. Before that there was this. An article about a bison literally licking a car, and we had to make a hero out of that. So, we rolled up our sleeves and got to work.
So so we got to make a hero out of this bison.
Okay, this could go like a couple different ways.
What are you thinking?
Does the car get superpowers from the bison, or does the bison get car powers? Or is there a human in the car that gets bison car powers?
There was, in fact, a human in this car. He was...
Sorry, what did you say, Drew?
Oh, there was, in fact, a human in this car that was recording this whole thing.
Oh, perfect. Did he report any bison-related powers?
Well, it doesn't say. It's only 30 seconds long, so what happened later when
I
they
mean,
were
I guess
obviously
if you got
in quarantine.
bison powers, you'd want to keep it secret.
Government trying to cover it up.
Or, I mean, keep your secret identity, right?
Mm-hmm.
True.
I'm not sure how that would transfer through. See, I was sort of imagining that, like, this bison was just like a super eater. I don't know. Like, how on earth does a bison eat a car?
So that's...
Like, they have those people out there who can eat all sorts of stuff, and, like, this bison is maybe just channeling that.
I don't know. I think it's just a goddamn bison. It does whatever it wants.
Our minds were rolling, and we began a lengthy discussion, spouting out any idea we had.
What if the bison so maybe in the vein of what Tanner's saying, bison eats the car and, like, maybe starts to exhibit some car-like features himself. Like, instead of growing fur, he starts to grow, like, metal plating on the outside of himself. He sort of becomes like a mechanized bison that perhaps can be a sort of tool for good.
Like
I guess I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out how this bison becomes a hero.
Finally, we arrived at this gem. Okay, it's a radioactive car, and then it's eating it, and then they get struck by lightning.
Oh my god, yes. Yes.
So...
And?
Yes, and?
Well, I mean... That's it right there. I mean...
The rest writes itself.
We got a superhero
Podcast
cocktail
over.
in that.
Finally, we just decided to throw in the flag.
This might not be a good one.
Yeah, I think we might need to pivot and perhaps start over.
All right.
I mean, this is kind of learning stuff though, like what works for an article and what doesn't.
Yeah.
I think as fun as animal ones are, unless they're like a specific kind, it's really hard to like. Otherwise, it just becomes like animal plus, like, I don't know.
So I'm gonna go ahead.
I think some animal ones work better than others. Like, there used to be a squirrel one in here where it was like squirrel defends family and home, but like in the end, it was just gonna be a squirrel that was had powers. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, I just deleted that.
This is true.
We learned a valuable lesson that day. Animals were hard to do. It was like leading a horse to water, and then having two birds throw stones at it. We've only been able to do it for a few articles, the first being Mech Gruff 2 episodes later. We needed more experience under our belt before we could handle the bison. But for now, it was time to move on to the article that started it all.
I guess, Tanner, do you want to roll the dice for us?
Yeah, so we've got 10 different articles we're picking from here. So let me go ahead here. We got number 6. So what is that, Drew?
This one comes to us from CBS News. It is monk arrested over massive hoard of meth pills.
Dear listeners, I lied. There was still another trial to go through, and it was in the form of this monk on meth. Well, we took it in good spirits and did what we could with it.
Okay, so let me just recap what we got so far and see if I've caught on. So we have a monk. He has powers derived from the spiritual side of his life, his monkhood. But he lives in a neighborhood that has been ravaged by the drug trade.
Yes.
And as part of his mission is basically to take these drugs out of the neighborhood and basically steal them away in a sort of like anti-Robin Hood style thing. Well, I guess he's not giving to anybody, but he's taking the drugs away in an attempt to help the neighborhood. Is that about correct?
Yes, like I would say so. I think that's what we've come to agree on.
He doesn't have a good hero track record
like
so far because he just got arrested.
Well,
I mean,
the cops are after Spider-Man. The cops are after Batman. I mean,
exactly.
Do they ever get arrested though?
Maybe at certain points.
At some point.
Yeah, and every
guess
hero's arc
Ant-Man.
they do.
Ant-Man does, yeah.
I'm just like I'm imagining this kind of sounds like, and I'm not a big Iron Fist, like I don't know a ton about Iron Fist, but like
You're gonna learn
isn't Iron
soon.
Fist a monk kind of guy who takes on the drug trade in New York?
Yeah, that's God, yeah.
Well, this is different.
we just
He's
create
in
Iron Fist?
Chicago.
We just created Iron Fist.
Fuck.
Did we?
Yeah, we did.
I mean, kinda.
We were talking.
I don't honestly know anything about Iron Fist.
Lesson number 2. We had to be so careful to not create something that had already been created. This show was meant to be about our creativity, and in making an Iron Fist copycat, it went against our core concept. At this time, we were beginning to grow disheartened and losing hope. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Maybe we weren't meant to be the great podcasters we thought we were meant to be. But third time's a charm, and we rolled the dice again.
And we got a 9. Okay, you want to give us what number 9 is, Drew?
Yeah, so this one comes to us from WYFF, South Carolina. 80-year-old South Carolina woman did not know her cane contained hidden sword. TSA.
We had arrived. This was the article that took off for us. What we created ended up to be an unknowing sword-wielding 720 flipping grandmother. And most importantly, we had a lot of fun along the way. Now, inevitably, there were bits and pieces during the discussion that referenced our previous blunders. Tanner referenced how hard it was to make animal superheroes. I made a quip about Iron Fist. My job on this podcast is to edit, and I have learned that editing is like making your way through a savage stormy sea, filled of course with horses ridden by stoner birds. It was up to me to cut out those pieces of fat, discard them, and do away with them. Ultimately, the result was pretty good. Except,
Yeah, my first thought.
Name another comic book series that starts with an 80-year-old sword-wielding woman.
Yeah, we're not going to accidentally make a different superhero this way.
there are different kinds of mistakes you make in your life. Some are small ones that you learn from and laugh about, and there are others that ruin your life completely. This mistake was obviously the latter. When I am on my deathbed surrounded by family, and they ask if I have any regrets, I will say it was how I left that one line in that episode. So now you know, dear listener, much more went into that first episode than you knew. But those articles we fumbled and grasped at and ultimately dropped were necessary. In a weird, twisted way, they gave birth to Bushido Sobo, and through her, our other heroes and villains, the Omen Shaman, Double Shot, Governor Lisk, and so many others. This has been the road to Bushido Sobo. I hope you have enjoyed it, and be sure to pick up the next issue of Headline Heroes.